and Gold Scratch is taking the show on the road. So I'll talk about what I think the problem is along the way, and when we get there, we'll find out if I'm right. Okay, what we got going on today, we're going down to see Joe Fernandez at his shop. Joe has a 67 Firebird, and I built a 400 Pontiac for him back in the spring. I think we dynoed it in March. And this is the engine. If you go back prior to that, we made videos where the stud from the carburetor fell into the engine while Joe was sweeping his shop. He had the engine running outside the shop, and it destroyed it. It broke the block. It broke the block, broke the piston. Did not damage the heads. Miraculously, didn't break the head. But anyway, destroyed the engine. And so Joe went on the tour and found another block. It was a 455. I built a 400 then for him. And he had the machining work done. He bought another set of heads, and they were assembled by a local machine shop. And the local machine shop also did the machining. And basically, I assembled it for him. We changed the camshaft, put a different camshaft in. I think we put a Summit 2802 cam in it, and basically made one engine out of two. I used all the other accessories and stuff off his 455, and we dynoed it. It worked fine. We took that engine to 55 or 5600 RPM multiple times, probably 10 or 12 pulls, made more power than we expected. So we were pretty happy with it. Joe took it from the dyno shop, put it in his shop. He's been driving it. I don't know how many kilometers or miles that he has put on it, but he's been driving it, and he became concerned a little while ago, and he checked the spark plug. His first thing he did, he pulled the plugs out, and I'm going to use this video as a way to kind of, if you're watching, help sort of diagnose problems, because a lot of these times it's hard to come to be sure about nailing down the right problem, and if you don't, you could fix the wrong thing and still have to, go back and fix it again. So you got to make sure you get that right. So Joe was astute enough to realize that number 5 spark plug wasn't burning the same as the other spark plugs. Pretty good observation. I might have just glossed over that, but anyway, he zeroed in on that. And so that's where we focused our attention. So Mike's going to put up a couple of short videos that Joe sent me. I haven't seen the car since. We're going to look at it right now. We're going to take it apart on camera and see or complete the diagnosis on camera and see what we can find. But let me tell you what we think is going on. So the next thing that Joe did was take a compression test. And I hope we can put that short video up of the compression test. All the 7 out of the 8 cylinders were over 180 psi, which is exactly what we aim for in this engine. And number 5 was really erratic. 1 minute it would be almost 0, then it would be, I think I had one that was 120, and you'll see in the video, very, very inconsistent.
Yep, she's counting down. Okay. Number 5 cylinder. Try that again. Now you're up to 120. Try that again. Now you're throwing 0.
And so I asked Joe a whole bunch of questions. We've been on the phone back and forth over the last couple of days. Bunch of questions. It doesn't smoke. It's not consuming oil. There's not oil getting in the water. There's not water getting in the oil. You look at things like it could be a head gasket failed, for example, a whole bunch of things like that. But you basically have 0 or no or erratic compression in one cylinder. And so obviously we're going to zero in on that cylinder. So based on the next thing I did over the phone, I asked Joe, take the valve cover, you had the valve cover off, or take the valve cover off. We took a short video of the rocker arms opening when he was cranking the engine. It appears that every push rod's coming up the same amount, close to it anyways. As far as we can tell, that's fine. There's no clearance in the rocker arms. So good news, it's not the camshaft, because that was always your first fear, is that you've taken a lobe off the camshaft, right? And that would be catastrophic. So it's not that. So the next thing we came to a conclusion, I said, Joe, push down on both valves on number 5 cylinder and see what you find out. And so he's just telling me over the phone that when you push down, you can feel on the intake valve of number 5 cylinder, he can push it down. I think he said something like 1/4 of an inch. Now this, as you'll see in the video when we get there, there's shrouds on these valves. There's the original OEM style oil shrouds, so it's hard to see anything in the springs. My assumption is we have a broken valve spring. So that would explain the erratic compression, because the valve's not necessarily closing all the way. What happens when a spring breaks, one coil jumps over the other one. So now you got kind of an erratic situation. Maybe one time the valve's closing a little bit. Maybe the compression's closing the valve. That'll help. Or it's not closing at all. And so he also made a short video of her running, and you can hear a mild pop back through the intake manifold. Deductive reasoning leads me to believe that's where I'm going to look next. So we're going to get there, and we're on the way. Fortunately, Joe doesn't live far away, so we're going to get there, and hopefully Joe's ready for us. We'll take the valve cover off, and if we can't find anything else, we'll pull those valve springs, at least pull the intake valve spring, and see what we find. Watch for it when we get there. Okay, here we are. The very first service call from Gold's Garage. Never did this before, and it would be about 100 degrees today. A little bit of an exaggeration, but not much.
He's hot.
Joe's my customer. You know him already from previous videos. Gary's my very first, one of my very first customers.
My neighbor.
And these guys have been doing a lot of troubleshooting on their own. We're now at Joe's shop. I just mentioned along the way, kind of got it down to we think we got a broken valve spring. Joe's got kind of set up for me, so we're going to take the next step and see what we can find. So we got to get it apart to find out. So Joe thinks it's number 5 cylinder, and let's just show you, if you can get over here, Alec, and show how he started to get suspicious. There's number 5 spark plug, and it almost looks like it's never fired. Now, what happens is, if there's zero compression in the cylinder, the spark fires, but there's no combustible mixture, there's no compression, there's no force, so nothing really happens, okay? So as a result, this plug looks like it's brand new, and Joe was astute enough to notice that, so good on you, Joe. So we think it's number, he's already told me, and if you look, we're going to shine a light down in there. From all the discussions we had, I said, Joe, push down on number 5 valves, and you can push this one with your finger. You can push the valve spring down with your finger. You can't push, and you shouldn't be able to push any valve springs down. So we're going to get this rocker arm off. We got it at the rotor pointing at number 5, top dead center. We want the piston at the top. Ideally, the main reason for that is to make sure the valve doesn't fall into the cylinder. So what's probably going to happen, we've got an air chuck here to pressurize the cylinder. It's an automatic transmission car, so there's not really any way to hold the engine from turning when it's in the car. If it was a manual transmission, we put it in gear and put the brake on, and that would be enough for us, but it's not. So we're going to hook the air up and see what happens. And then I'll let you hook it up, Joe, because it's your little fixture there. And let's see if it turns the engine over or not. Start with. Huh? Didn't turn it. Good. It's leaking quite a bit. Let's take it off and tighten it up more.
You seem to have
Well, no, I just didn't have the thing tight. There we go. Hook it back up.
I think you got a leak right there.
Oh, jeez.
See it?
Yeah, when did that happen? Son of a gun. But you know what? If the engine didn't turn, there where it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Valve's not open. Why is it stopping out? So we can hear air coming back up through the carburetor. You can feel it coming back up through the carburetor. The air hose is not leaking. And so when I pull up on the valve spring, it stops, at least a lot. So we're pretty sure we're going to find a broken valve spring when we get that apart. Let's take the next step. We're going to get that rocker arm off. Unfortunately, it's probably, unless it was number 7 cylinder, in the worst place it can probably be, but we'll get it off anyway. So let's do that. Next thing is to take the rocker arm off. That actually helped to close it because the preload on the valve was holding it open. Now, see if I can get my little tool in there. Did I get in there, Joe?
Yep. Switch spots.
The push rod has to come out because it's going to be in the way. The air is actually holding it up now. That's what's happening. Not in the best place for it to be, that's for sure. And we got to get threaded all the way down, or it won't be enough to get it off. In the top drawer, there's a magnet, Joe. I'm going to need that.
Top drawer, magnet.
Of my little box there.
The little guy?
Like a extension magnet.
Yep. Yep.
Takes time to get it in there. It's not the best. There we go. And okay, I just need to get my other good rag here.
Yeah. And there's some blue rag.
Huh? No, I don't need to wash it. I need to get this. Hold on that magnet for me. So we're going to compress the spring. Now it's not very hard to do, that's for sure. Try to. There we go. There you go. And we don't need to take it right back out. Keepers. And there's your broken spring, guys. That's what we thought. So all our deductive reasoning is making sense now. So we need another spring. Let's just take that away. See what else. Let's see the light in there. See if I can see if there's anything else going on there. No. And let me just check your valve seal. Unhook the air, and I'll see if the valve seal is going to hold that. Well, you know what? It still has the rubber O-ring on it, so that valve seal will hold it.
What?
Unhook it. Go ahead and unhook it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make sure the valve doesn't fall into the engine for obvious reasons. Yeah. Okay. We'll put that down.
Just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put a clamp on it. Actually, what I usually use is a close hanger, but Joe doesn't have any close hangers.
Clothespin.
Clothespin, I mean. Clothespin. That'll hold it. Just enough to keep it from falling. We'll leave the tool on it because we're going to have to use it to put it back on. So stage one is finding the problem. The next thing is fixing it. So these heads were assembled by CarQuest.
CarQuest. Yeah.
So we got to go back and see if they can provide you with a spring, because you don't want to buy a whole set.
Yeah.
Now, what did I do with the heads when Joe brought them to me? I took a couple of valve springs out, and I checked them on my valve spring checker to make sure they had sufficient force for this cam, and open and close. And I checked the combustion chamber volume. I didn't disassemble the rest of the heads. There was no reason to. They were already assembled. So I have to look and see, why did that valve spring break? On the dyno, we went, what, 5,600 RPM?
5,300.
5,300,
Yeah,
that's all?
5,300 of power. Yeah.
Okay, that's as far as we
I
went?
think we shut it off.
Or that's where it peaked?
That's where we stopped.
Is it? Okay. So anyway, and Joe promised me he hasn't had it over 4,700. So promise? Is that a promise?
47, 48. That's it. That's
48.
as far as
No.
it gets.
You got 49?
No, 49.
Okay. So anyway, that 6,000 shouldn't hurt it. It should be just fine. So why did that spring break? What is that spring? I don't know any of those answers, so we got to go back to CarQuest and find out. So we got the spring out, and of course you want to make sure you got all the broken parts. And it was pretty well collapsed on itself. No wonder it ran funny, and we had a backfire popping through the carburetor and all the other symptoms, which added up to that. We came to this conclusion before we even started taking it apart, but we got it right.
Bottom one's broke too.
So
The inner one.
even the inner spring broke?
Looks like it. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect fit.
And show the big spring too, Joe.
Let's make sure that this actually fits in here, right?
It's all there.
Yeah, it's all there.
Now, Joe just told me off camera, he bought these heads, and the local machine shop that put them together checked them, and they did not change them. They checked them and said they were fine. And I put a couple on my spring tester, and the forces were good. But you never know. In fatigue life, one of the things that's probably the most vulnerable in any engine is breaking the valve spring. So there's something that you cannot avoid. Fatigue every time they go up and down is a cycle, and whether that's fatigue from wear or use, it's not a big cam. It's not as if the cams, it's a Summit 502. So what is it?
2802.
2802.
Yeah.
I mean 2802.
So it's got like a high 488.
480. So that's not enough to hurt the spring. And I've checked it at the open and close. I checked not this one, but another one at the open and close, and it looked fine. So we got to see, first of all, we got to find at least one other spring and decide where we go from there. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching Gold's Garage.